But that's so cool though, like, because I had the same thing happen to me. And so whenever I was at work at my co-op, I would need like to listen to music or a podcast or something just to keep me like focused. But like whenever I work in 3D modeling, just the same thing will happen to me. It'll be like 3-4 hours in, and I'll be like, oh, I've been working on this for 4 hours. I haven't eaten all day, and I'm not listening to anything. But yeah, I totally have that happen to me too.
Yeah.
But if you do ever like get the chance, there's a bunch of really good podcasts out there, and they might not all be specifically like your specific area of study, but even like for example, I used to listen to the Animated Journey, where they kind of interview people that are in the animation industry with 2D and 3D animation. And then there's my new favorite one, which is the Collective podcast, with Ash Thorpe, who I now have a man crush on. But so he's like an illustrator. I'm pretty sure he also does like VFX. He basically does whatever he needs to get the project done for the most part. But so he has basically anyone that could be in the entertainment industry. So like 3D modeling, lighting, storyboarding, like music production, literally anything. He'll have them on the show and just kind of talk about just their process and how they get to where they're at and just everything. So I guess if you ever realize that, that you're like in the zone and you want to listen to something new, I definitely highly recommend maybe checking out those podcasts, because they have some really inspirational episodes on there for sure. That's like my go-to. I'm actually interning at Impact Products, so I do Photoshop. I just like basic cropping out the backgrounds, then I'll do some video production, and then like post-production for that. It's basically just like a cleaning supply company, so I'm doing that basically just kind of bring in the money, and then also to gain the experience. But so like that's my go-to whenever I work there, is I'll listen to a Collective podcast.
Okay.
But yeah, podcasts are definitely fun. But that's kind of like how I knew like 3D modeling was the route for me, just like anything in the 3D industry, because you could just be working on a project and not even realize that 8 hours have been up, and like that's how you know like that you're passionate about it.
Yeah, you just kind of been absorbed.
For sure. Right, like when you're willing to put in work even after like your 8-hour shift. 'Cause like I've heard a lot of people doing that too in the industry, where they'll do whatever like their job is, like if they're working at like Activision or wherever, and then they'll have their own side project afterwards. And like if you have that much dedication, that's how you know you're in the right job area.
Yeah, because for really this can go for anyone that's in an art field, is like you honestly, like hopefully you're in a good, you're in a good position to always like, you always want to keep working on that, whatever that art field may be. For example, for us it's 3D, and yeah, like honestly sometimes it's funny because when I'm in school, I would be like happy to be working on whatever class assignment I'm doing, but then also in the back of my mind I'm like, man, I started modeling this thing and I just want to like texture it already, but I can't because I have this homework to do. So you're just kind of like, man, I was like, fine, at some rate I'll get to it, but apparently not today.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you're really into video games. So EA is actually going on right now. Now this episode's not going to come out till like probably a week or two from now, just the way everything's set up. But as of right now, the EA, that whole thing is going on. So what's your take on everything you've seen so far for that?
Wait, like EA, like as in like E3 or as in EA situation?
Oh shoot! Wait, no. Crap. What's the? I'm having a brain fart. What's the big event thingy where they show off all the video games?
So it's E3.
I'm stupid. Okay.
No, you're fine. Because I was like, well, EA Play is a thing right now, but it's going on during E3. So I was like, oops. Oh, yeah, no, you're fine. Man, E3, I'm actually, it's funny. So the two professors, so my hard surface modeling professor, he actually is working on one of the big games that's been announced.
Mm.
And then my other professor, so in the spring I also had to take a Principles of Animation class, and that professor, he's actually working. He worked on a. It hasn't been revealed yet. It's being revealed, I think, today. I don't know what time, but it's for it's for Square Enix, and it's the Avengers one or the Marvel one. He worked on that, and that one hasn't been announced yet. So I'm actually like really excited this year to be watching E3.
Yeah. Do I need to cut that out, or you're not gonna get in trouble?
No. Well, yeah, that's why I've been just saying like the classes, like saying like my hot surface modeling, the Avengers or the Marvel one. It's been posted on social media, going like 3 days till the big reveal, 2 days before.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's on the Square Enix like Instagram page. It'll be all good.
Yeah, because I know, like it can really be strict when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's okay. I do not. That's why I'm not saying. That's why I'm not saying names.
Yeah. The 2 games I saw. So the first one, my brother's probably gonna get, and we're probably gonna play it a lot just because we grew up on it. But they came out with that Lego Star Wars, the whole series.
Oh
so
yeah.
Definitely gonna get that one. Mm-hmm. That one looks like a lot of fun. The other one, this is there's. Just like going off of YouTube, there's a lot of mixed feelings about this, but did you see it was Forza Horizon? They came out with an expansion for, it was like Lego Racers basically.
Yeah, I saw. I mean,
and so
I thought it was cute.
I personally am really excited for that because there's a series that came out when I was like just a little kid. It was like Lego Racers 2, and I basically grew up on that. And so when I saw the Lego race cars, I was like, oh snap! Like, it didn't have completely like the Lego environment, but there were portions where it was there, and I was like, this is basically Lego Racers 3, and this is cool, but they should just make Lego Racers 3. Because I don't want to buy the game just to get the add-on. But it looked cool though, 'cause it brought back childhood memories.
Yeah, it was funny because when I was watching that, I'm all like, man, what? And then I think, what was it? It was like in-game footage too, and I was like, man, this looks really good, and it's just Legos. And sometimes it would take me a second too, like I'll be looking and I was like, nope, that's not an actual car, it's a Lego. I'm all like, oh,
yep.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, seeing how that turns out.
I think another thing for E3 that I'm personally excited for, I don't know if they're gonna really announce anything new. Like, I hope they do. So like, again, me being a Final Fantasy fan, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, I really hope there's more talk about it in the Square Enix presentation. I really hope so. Because like I grew up, I'll admit I did not play like every single Final Fantasy game because when I was growing up, I was like a baby, so when those games came out. So I'm now just recently like playing them on my very little spare time.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like, I'm really excited to see what they will change and modify, because already for Final Fantasy, like the remake, they already changed like the gameplay. And I know when that was first, like very first announced, and people saw the gameplay, they were really hoping that it's not gonna have the same issues as like Final Fantasy 15. But some people even were like, just make it the same like turn-based strategy thing, just with really good graphics. Like, you know what I mean? So because it's like a remake, and Final Fantasy 7 is like very dear and close to like so many people's hearts. So I'm just like, oh man. But either way, I'm really excited for that. Yeah, and then this is gonna sound really boring, and I'm pretty sure no one thought about this during any E3 conference of like any companies. It was interesting to see like to try to compare a ratio of realistic to stylized games, I guess you can say, being announced, because it's like, I guess for me it's like to show like how the industry is tackling, you know, like having stylized work being offered and then having realistic work being offered, because you know, like goodness, I can't remember the name of it, but I think it's from Ninja Theory, and they came out with this like battle royale, but it's like melee style, and it's like stylized. But then, you know, you'll look at and then or like they'd be like the Psychonauts 2, and you know what I mean, like I'm comparing like numbers of like this is how many stylized games was released, and this is how many realistic looking games was released, and like, I don't know, it's just kind of like it's like me trying to see where the industry is currently focusing on, I guess you can say. Because sometimes when you because that's also a thing for like portfolios that you have to like also kind of specialize in. Like you have to specialize if you're going, like, yes, you can be someone that can textual, like know how to apply a material to your model, but you need to know if like what's like do you want to do realistic stuff or do you want to do stylized stuff. And some people sometimes say like, well, you can learn both, which is true, but even then it's like you should probably, like in my mind I'm like, well, even in the end I still need to pick a side to like really focus in and things like that. It just kind of had me thinking whenever I look at the games being announced of like, oh, okay, so this studio does this studio does that. So when I graduate, like hopefully it's funny because actually most people say when you're in a university that you should not be applying for a job like once, like after you graduated, you should be applying for a position or even an internship like maybe your junior to senior year of like college of your university or college to like hope you land a position since this 3D field is so like competitive.
Yeah. I definitely saw like a handful of stylized games that were out there. But for me, like I feel like 2D games is definitely making a comeback from like how it was like a while back. So there was that time where just everything's kind of shut down. And so it's definitely been coming back for sure. But for me personally, I just like to do basically whatever makes something look realistic and pretty, I like to do it. So like I focus towards 3D modeling, but I recently took classes on ZBrush to understand the fundamentals of that, and then like I started looking into dynamics with like special effects and like hair and all like particles and everything. Just because I feel like if I were to go freelancing, it would probably be better off to be familiar with everything just so I can do more. And like this is really annoying. So I've listened to so many different people on like what you should do when it comes to focusing or being a man of all trades or jack of all trades. Yeah. And I've heard so many various answers, and it's like because I've heard from one person like, you definitely want to have the strong fundamental of everything just because it makes you more marketable. Then I've heard from another person like, no, you need to strictly focus on what you want to do because in order for you to stick out, you need to be the best of the best. So I'm just like, I'm gonna do both.
so I guess I'll give my take on that because I did ask a couple of my professors or like from just doing research online as well. Yeah, like it is a struggle, between of like, should I know everything or should I just have a strong suit in this? And usually, so one of the responses I got was like, well, basically, yeah, like have your specialization, so like have your strong focus and your strong skill set and whatever you really love doing. So like, for example, for me, that would be like modeling props and then like texturing it in a realistic style. But you can always study on the side the other stuff, and then maybe someone told me like, because I told them, well, my fear is that I want someone to know that I am always willing to learn and educate myself on like various things. And then they gave the suggestion of like, well, maybe just put the stuff that you're not like, as in like put the access learning stuff on a side blog, or just to show like, yes, I can learn, like, to show like, yes, I can learn all the stuff, but this is the stuff I really love doing and this is what I'm mainly focused on. And so for me right now, yeah, like I at the moment I actually want to prepare my portfolio for when I go to conventions, and since my love or my passion is in hot surface and environments, and like the realistic approach. That's what I'm catering my portfolio, like my ArtStation to. But maybe if I have some downtime or just a break, I'll do something kind of like stylized and then just put it on my Twitter or my Instagram, like just somewhere else that isn't on my portfolio. Because the thing about portfolio is they will recognize what is your best and what is your worst work, So that's why it's also important to just ask someone like, hey, on my portfolio, like which one is probably the worst thing that you see and which is the best, because you really have to, because again, like I watched a GDC talk, and I think I believe it's called like Killer Portfolio or Portfolio Killer. And so and that was one of the points of like, if you have a really weak piece, we know you're trying to like hide it, and once we notice it, it sticks out to us. So like on your portfolio, just make sure you represent the best of your best work that it's specialized, because it needs to be catering towards the thing you really want. So I guess my short answer of your question would be like, you can study the thing you love and want to specialize in, and then just kind of like you can study it on the side, but you don't have to be like a master of it, I guess you can say.
Right.
Like it's good to have knowledge in it, but you don't have to be like this absolute like wizard at it.
Yeah.
Because basically, like when it comes to, for example, for modeling, my professor put it as like, it's like handing someone one pen and then you're handing someone a different pen, but in the end what we care about is what you make with that, like what's the product you make. So that's why it can be a bit of a mixed answer, because some studios may not even have the modeling program you're used to, but you still know the concepts of what makes a strong model, So I guess like basically the bionology is going to be different, but not the concepts. The concepts always stay the same. So if you can master the concepts, then what should happen is that it can transfer to the other program. You just have to learn the bionology to it. Now I will admit, going from something like Maya to like ZBrush is like not really the same, because ZBrush is really I will admit, ZBrush is really catered. I mean, like people have modeled hard surface props with ZBrush. I'm just in particularly not used to it, but I have seen it. But it's like, most of the time ZBrush, it's like I always see it as something for characters or creatures, and things like that. But so that's
definitely.
my take.
Like ZBrush, like ZBrush is definitely like possible to do like kind of your hard surface models what you normally use that for, but it's just you could do it. I mean, I'm just so much more used to doing it on Maya that it's like, I'll just do organic stuff in ZBrush and hard surface for Maya. Yeah. Basically, and I really liked your pen analogy. I like that. Oh. Basically, like you have all these different tools or pens. It's just like how you use them to create whatever it is that you need to create. But like for me, I kind of feel like it's a solid like 70-30, where 70% of what I do is like focusing on 3D modeling if it's working on a project, or learning something new about it, and then the other 30 is like just learning something new, just because I feel like, especially in this industry, you have to be open to adapting to doing new things, just because it's always changing and things are always more in demand than others and vice versa. And so I think that's kind of like my approach is to it, is just like have that focus, but also be open-minded to be able to adapt to other things, I guess.
Yeah, cause,
for sure.
Yeah, because, for example, if you, like when you mentioned, when you just said, like, adapting to new things, like, so I think, I know some people still do this, but I don't particularly do this anymore. So at my high school, we didn't have a program that's called Substance Painter, which is used for texturing. We had to use, like, Photoshop, and basically in Maya, you would get your UV map, and take that UV map, put it into Photoshop, and then you'll start your texturing journey from there. I did not like it, to say the least. I actually didn't even practice it that much, because that's how much I didn't like it. I had a friend that did, so basically I would model it for him and then hand it off to him and be like, okay, you take it now, you texture it, I don't care, because I hated it that much. But when I got introduced to Substance Panel, you know, like it's basically like it's basically like a very efficient way of texturing, because you could just literally paint on the model and you're like, oh wow, who knew? I mean, you still have to UV map, like your UV maps need to be good, but it's like the process of it definitely became like more efficient. And that's usually the thing, is like the technology that's being developed for this field is like, how can we make something efficient but still hold good quality, you know, of work and things like that. But there's also just like new technology coming out, like, well, not, I can't say this is brand new, but Substance Designer is really awesome, because you can make your own like, I guess I can call it a texture, like you can make your own textures procedurally through all these like nodes and all that stuff, and you can make it exactly how you want, instead of you having to, you know, in Photoshop, like manipulate a whole bunch of images to look like the thing you need. Like, it's really, yeah, like there's so much to learn, but you know, like once you basically like look into that stuff, it's like, yeah, like just study it when you can, like, you know. And I always do this too, though. I kind of look at future job applications and kind of see what's the software that they would, you know, like they would be like, hey, it's like, hey, for this modeling position, the software we would like is, you know, XYZ, and then you're like, okay, cool, I do know how to use this one, because it's usually like they say like, or like, it's like, for example, a common comparison is like 3ds Max and Maya, or it'd be Mudbox or ZBrush. So then it's like we would want someone that knows how to use Maya or 3ds Max, or be like, I want someone that can know how to use ZBrush or Mudbox. I will admit though, I don't see as many, like, I see a lot more for ZBrush in comparison to Mudbox. I'm not exactly sure why, but I just see a lot more about ZBrush, so I just kind of take it. But also, I can see, well, now that I'm thinking about it, I can see why, because ZBrush is like, you buy it once and you own it. They now recently though did release that subscription type deal, but it's like, just buy it once and you're good.
yeah.
But with like,
and it's kind of like,
oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's kind of like what you said, like going back on that pen analogy. It's like, if they do the same things, then I think companies try to see like if you can do it, and then if you have the knowledge of how to, like, let's just say sculpting, but like you're using a different application. If you already know how to do the sculpting, then they'll be able to transition you to other software if you already have the skills to sculpt. And I feel like if your work's good enough, then it's like they'll be able to overlook that. And yeah, so that's kind of why, like, I really want to focus on like certain software, like for example, modeling is Maya, ZBrush is sculpting, and then like if it's a job application where they require 3D Max or Mudbox or some alternate software that I don't know, I think my approach is maybe like try and look up maybe the fundamentals of it, just in case I get like the interview, I won't be completely blindsided. But just trying to show off that like, hey, I can create this artwork, and then like I can still create this if you put me on another software. It'll just take like a week or so to kind of adapt to the new software.
Well, I guess so. The only concern though with that is like, so the industry is very time inefficient based, because you know, producing these things are super duper expensive. So
also true.
Yeah. So basically, not all companies have a luxury of time to train you with whatever program. You know what I mean?
That's also true.
With what they want. But actually, so my hot surface mining professor at the studio he's in, they actually don't use a game engine like Unreal or Unity. They use their own custom-made engine, but oops, sorry. But, you know, like, they will train you on that, but if it's, like, if the company says on the description, like, 3ds Max, that's probably the reason why is because that's the license that they can afford, you know what I mean? Like, they can't afford every single license to whichever popular modeling programs are there, but, you know, when you are sitting in the interview, they will, like, you know what I mean? Like, they basically, you don't mention something you're not the most 100% knowledgeable in, because then it can show and, like, they can, like, hit your weakness right away, because you know, it's just being honest of, like, this is what I'm most experienced in, and then when they see that, they're like, okay, so you're really, like, even though it's like, because they can look at your portfolio, and then, you know, on ArtStation you can put what you used, and they kind of be like, oh, okay, so I can see that you mostly use Maya, but man, we sadly use this program, and things like that. But, you know, every studio or company would probably handle that situation differently, but, like, when you're like applying, like, what was it? I remember reading something about it, but basically it's like when you're applying, just make sure, like, you can talk about the stuff that's either on your portfolio, like the programs and maybe even your workflow, so then they can really see how you think, and they'll take it from there.
Definitely. So I think you said you're a freshman currently, or are you?
Oh, so
sophomore?
I am in the fall I will be a sophomore. So yeah, sorry. I said freshman.
Sorry, English Dad. Did you say sophomore? Or?
Yeah, I'm a upcoming sophomore. I'm gonna be a sophomore this fall. So yeah, pretty excited.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. So, just with college, have you, like, done any outside extracurricular or, like, organizations or stuff that you've joined, or have you really focused on your classes?
Yeah, well, I guess you can count it, but my only extracurricular that I did it's funny because it still involves doing 3D. So I was actually a teacher assistant for a bit, for a while throughout my first year, and I taught 3D. I specifically was more focused, since I was just a teacher assistant, I would basically help students and show students though, like, well, like, you can actually do this with this game engine, or it's like you can actually try it like this to model, and that was pretty much my only extracurricular activity. But other than that, I was pretty heavily focused on my school, because one was like I actually do have co-academic classes that I have to complete, and then my animation, or like my major, takes up a lot of time. So it's like I have to, you know, like, I really wanted to maintain good grades in those classes, but also since all of my scholarships are GPA based, I had to because, like, the scholarship I got is, like, it's basically like you have to maintain a really high GPA for the next I guess now 3 years. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, sometimes my friends will they won't, like, poke fun at me, but they'll kind of, like, tease me because they know I've been trying to complete a game, but I just haven't had the time.
I'm sure that's gonna take a while.
So they'll just like, well, you technically can play it now, it's the summer, but now during the summer I just want to do my personal projects. I had to postpone, or I just had to, like, kind of keep in the back of my mind because I was in school. So I'm like, no, it's basically like, I'll play games at some point, as in never, probably. Just kidding. But,
I'd say this is just kind of my own personal experience, but if you can make the time, try to join, even if it's just, like, one organization, just because, especially, like, if it's focused towards your major, that would definitely help. So background story for me is, so I was an orientation leader, I was a tour guide, and so this is kind of like a spiel I've said a lot to, like, all the tours I've done. It's definitely, like, getting involved is, I'd say, the second most important thing of college. First is obviously academics, because, you know, you gotta graduate and get a job. But second most important is just getting involved, because as we kind of discussed earlier, it's